The Winnipeg Jets have found their secret weapon, and this has massive implications on the Jets team going into the playoffs. And we get multiple updates on the Winnipeg Jets, including a key injury to their blue line. We're going to break all this down and more later on this episode. But before we get into that, if you're enjoying this content, make sure to go down and hit that free subscribe button, and we'll keep you up to date on everything to do around the league. But with that, Darius, we got to hop straight into the first topic today, where we do see one key player on the blue line for the Winnipeg Jets absolutely dominating, and that is Dylan Samberg. Now, the other night we seen him score a overtime winner versus the Seattle Kraken, and I'm just going to kind of toss it to you. What is your thoughts on Samberg so far this season?
Yeah, not surprising that he's able to do this at this point in the season. Like you mentioned off the top, he could be their secret weapon this year. We know what type of weapons the Jets have, but this could be the secret weapon that they've had in the back pocket the whole time. And he's due for a big contract extension. We'll get to that in a little bit as well. But I think this guy is going to get paid this summer because he's been playing great. And if you've been subscribed to the channel for a long time, whether this one or Winnipeg Jets Digest, you know, all season I've been saying this is the glue guy. When he went down earlier this season, Dylan Samberg, with a broken leg, you know, the team started losing. And it's not because he's an elite defender or anything like that, even though he is a very good defenseman. He is the glue guy. When he's in the lineup, all the pairings just make sense. The pairings are lengthened. The team is better for it. So he's been great all season long. He's due a very wealthy contract extension coming this offseason. He's going to get it. And I think that this guy is going to come up big in the playoffs because in the past, last season, you know, the last couple playoff runs they've been on, he hasn't really been, you know, he hasn't stepped into the role that he has this year with Neal Pionk to his side. And that pairing has been fantastic as well. So yeah, I think he's going to get paid this summer. I think he's been playing fantastic. And again, I think that he is the glue guy for this team.
And I mean, looking at his advanced stats, you can pause and you can look through this. He has been outstanding on the Jets blue line this year, being the anchor to their team, like you said. And I'll flash it once again, the overtime goal that he did score. It's a beauty of a goal too, and a great setup. But he has really shown that he does have more offensive touch to his game that some people might have not expected. 6 goals, 11 assists for 17 points, only 26 years old. And when looking at the pairing that he had with Pionk, they are ranked the best in expected goals percentage for the Winnipeg Jets, and they also have the least amount of goals against, over 60 minutes with 2.1. This has been one of the best pairings and probably the best second pairing in the NHL this season. Now listen, the biggest thing is, yes, Samberg is a free agent at the end of the year. He is an RFA, so you do hold his rights. 1.4 million this year, 2 of 2 on his contract. But with an RFA, him only being 26, what do you think the possible contract could be for him at the end of the season?
Well, there's a lot of projections out there, and a lot of it is speculation at this point. And obviously, I think it's a little, I don't want to use the word concerning that he hasn't signed an extension yet. Maybe they're just waiting for the offseason just to kind of see how the playoffs go and what their salary cap structure is looking like. Because, again, if this team goes out in the first round, there could be some changes, especially to the forward group. But we'll see. I guess they want to wait till, you know, the end of the season to kind of make a decision on that. You do retain his rights. Not like he's a UFA, right? You have time to make this decision and to sign him, and you're not going to lose him to free agency. So there is that. But with all that being said, I do think his contract's going to come in at around $4 to $5 million. I think he's going to get a pretty healthy raise. And, you know, the salary cap's going up significantly. So with that, guys who are playing this well, he's worth way more than 1.4 to me. So I think he's going to get, you know, a pretty good extension there. And it's going to be, I don't know about the term, could be like 4 or 5 years, something like that. We'll see exactly how that works out. But at $4 to $5 million, what he's brought to this team with the salary cap going up, I think that's a fine deal.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is getting him signed. Now, the big thing with this lineup as well, and if you've been following any of the Winnipeg Jets news, you do see Samberg is currently playing with Luke Schenn. And I kind of want to go straight into the second topic, that we do see Neal Pionk out week to week with a lower body injury. So they do have to shake up the lineup to bring in a recently acquired Luke Schenn up on the second pairing. They do got to change it a tiny bit, but it doesn't change too much. I mean, looking at this series, are you worried that maybe this pairing that we once seen, whenever I find the screenshot, that looked like one of the best pairings in the NHL can kind of happen with Luke Schenn there? Or with Neal Pionk out, do you think this is kind of going to be a struggle for Samberg to get used to someone like Luke Schenn?
I think the Jets have been playing great, and they're probably going to continue to roll. But the last time that this pairing was split up because of Samberg's lower body injury, they did not play well. They started losing games, and that happened, late last year, heading into December. They dropped a bunch of games at that point in the season. So I would look towards that. However, at that point in the season, they were very thin on defense, and this is why you go out and you get a guy like Luke Shen, because then he can fill in that role, and then Colin Miller can come up, and your team still looks pretty good. It's still lengthened, right? And you're only missing one guy, and that's exactly why you went out and got Luke Shen for the playoffs. Injuries are going to happen. Injuries happened here. Now Luke Shen steps into that role, and again, Colin Miller comes up, because if Luke Shen wasn't there, then it's Colin Miller playing that spot, and then who's on the third pairing? We're not sure. Maybe Billy Hanola at this point. We're not exactly sure who would fill that spot, but it would get very interesting. That's for sure. So I think that obviously they had a big deadline for that reason. Brandon Tanev, we haven't touched on in this video either, but he's been a big part of the team as well. So that's why you go out and you get guys like this to lengthen the lineup in case there are injuries down the stretch in the playoffs. It happened here. So I am a little bit worried in terms of them moving forward, because again, the last time that pairing was split up, there was trouble. There was a little bit of trouble, but we'll see. Dylan Samberg's playing great, and the rest of the team has been playing great too. They seem like they're on fire and ready for the playoffs. So I think they'll continue to keep it rolling, but certainly something to look at if they start, they play tonight against Vancouver. If they drop that game, if they drop maybe another game, that's something to keep an eye on. That maybe Samberg and Pionk together is the recipe for success.
And I mean, the biggest thing with Luke Shen, listen, we've seen him play with some elite company. Talking to Vancouver, we've seen him play with Quinn Hughes for quite some time, and he looked like a top pairing defenseman. Listen, I understand that was a couple of seasons ago. He played with Morgan Riley, and once again looked great on that. Listen, Nashville is a dumpster fire, so let's not look into that. But I do think there is a possibility that he comes in and maybe they find a new line that could work. And maybe when Pionk comes back, you can spread this defense out a little more. Get Pionk onto maybe the third pairing to add a boost to that. It's going to be quite interesting, but listen, the Jets are pretty far ahead in the lineup. Losing Pionk does suck, but looking at the standing, they don't have to worry about missing the playoffs, Darius. They're top in the league, above the Washington Capitals. This is the team that's poised to make the playoffs on the back of Connor Hellebuyck, who's the best goaltender in the NHL, and it's bar none at this point. But looking at the lineup, is there anyone maybe going into the playoffs you would like to see step up? Or do you think this is the Jets team that just consistently can continue to play like this and go on a deep run?
It's going to come as a surprise, but one guy in particular is Connor Hellebuyck, and he's been great all season. He always has been in the regular season, but last season in the playoffs, he was kind of exposed. And it wasn't just him, it was the defense as well. So I'm looking towards him to step it up in the playoffs, and the usual suspects too, like Nikolai Ehlers has to get going, right? Like Kyle Connor, at times he slumps a little bit, so he needs to get going as well in the playoffs. So I'm looking towards those guys. I really want to see what the defense can do in the playoffs, because you got Luke Shen for a reason. He's going to be tossing bodies around, which is going to be fun to watch. And is Neal Pionk healthy for the playoffs? That's another thing, because he is week to week, and at this point, the playoffs is week to week away, right? We're less than a month away from the playoffs at this point, so it's going to get very exciting. But that's who I'm looking towards. And I know it's going to sound a bit ridiculous, but it's Connor Hellebuyck, right? What happened last year? Can you come back and have a performance that makes people forget about that?
But I mean, Jets fans, what's your thoughts? How much would you like to see Samberg get paid? And listen, you're gonna say like $1,000, but obviously be realistic with it. How much you think he's worth? How much would you be comfortable giving him? What's your thoughts on this Jets team? And do you think this is the year maybe they kind of break the curse and go on a deep playoff win and win a Stanley Cup? Let us know down in the comments. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host Darius, and take care.